Hello everybody, I'm Morgan Hill. I'm a general member of the Theatre Arts Society and I'm here with the Marble Gardens cast for their Talkback! If you guys just want to go down the line and introduce yourself and say what role you played in the project.
Great. I'm Ruby Godet and I was the Veiled Virgin.
I'm Cadence Flat and I played Little Dancer.
I'm Zachary Elser and I played Nike.
I'm Noah Hurley and I played Venus.
I'm Paul McConchek and I played David.
I'm Emily Carstairs and I played Juliet.
I'm Spencer. I was the director on the piece.
I'm Casey. I'm the sound designer.
I'm Veronica. I'm the light designer.
I'm Jocelyn. I'm the set designer.
I'm Shelby. I was the playwright.
I'm Andreas. I was the stage manager.
I'm Malia and I was costumes.
Okay, I want to open it up to everybody and ask if anybody who watched had any questions for our cast and crew.
I'm just wondering, first of all, phenomenal job.
Thank you.
I know, I myself, just watching this, and this is the best possible. It was a punch to the gut. It was very emotional, and I was just wondering throughout the entire process, when did you have that specific moment of just feeling like, whoa, this is heavy?
I'll take the first round of that answer. Yeah. For me, it was callbacks. I was at callbacks with, I wouldn't even say a majority of our cast.
Exactly.
Half of our cast was at callbacks. And I read a scene and then we took a little break and I just cried. I was so moved. It was so heavy, but not in a bad way. It really hit me that this was a piece that meant something. That's my kind of moment of being moved by it immediately.
Yeah. Andreas had one back there as well.
Andreas.
For me, it was literally the beginning. Like the moment I read the script, I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, that first read through was really powerful, and it kind of, I didn't know what to expect, and I was pleasantly surprised. Just such beautiful writing, and it was so powerful. Like you said, it was like to say that in front of people. I was like, okay, this is a little different, and felt that way all the way through.
Yeah, at least for me, I think it was through one of our first run-throughs without any scripts in hands. Mm-hmm. I think for me at least, there's such a difference between having a script, reading words off of it, versus putting your whole body into it. And I think that's one of those things that really just hit me when I was able to feel free without a paper in my hand.
Definitely.
I had a pretty similar experience. Mine was, I think it was around when we got the second iteration of the script. I was reading it and I was just trying to plan out blocking or plan out my approach to the text, and I was kind of sitting there and I was like, this is heavy, this is dark, how am I going to do this? And then I went to our production meeting with designers, and their whole kind of approach to it was bringing the beauty out of the text, and that was a perspective that I really, really value, because I don't think that I alone would have gotten there, if that makes sense. So that was kind of around when I really felt it.
For me, it was a bit later on in the process. It was our first tech day, and it was our first tech day, and we were sitting watching a run through, and right as Cadence's line, I want to rip my skin, something like that, where you rip the hoodie, and the rumble from the subwoofers came in. It was like, oh yeah! It's kind of where that one hit me.
Okay. Anybody else have anything?
I would say definitely for me, from a designer standpoint, it was that first read-through, because that was, I guess, my first time meeting all of you and seeing it, and then when you started reading the script, I was like, this is casted so perfectly. Yeah, it really hit me that at the read-through.
I would say for me it was, I want to say it was our second or third day of second day of tech, and it was Palmer's Please. Yeah. Said it just and I was just like, oh,
kill me.
And it was just broke my heart, teared up.
Yeah.
So good.
Was there any other questions for anybody? Danielle?
Yeah, congratulations, everyone.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
This is for Shelby. How was it for you to see your words in this staging? Was it at all how you imagined it in your mind, or?
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely was. When I first originally wrote the script, I originally wrote it for coming from like one singular voice, just like as a constant like flow of like a narrative flow. And then I broke it up into like characters. That's where I got like the idea for the statues. Yeah, it was how I envisioned it. Like everything was to the point where like, wow, this is what I wrote, this is what I put on page, put onto a stage. My mother actually saw opening night, and she came up to a fair number of the actors and to me afterwards, and she was like, you spoke with her voice, and you captured how she sounded. And so so it really came together, and it became something like better than I could even imagine.
Mm-hmm.
My first question is for Malia. We were wondering, the characters are statues that exist in the real world, and we were wondering how that affected like your ability to design costumes, because they already have clothes, most of them.
Yeah, it's definitely, except for David. That was my first, like, when I first, like, met with the actors, I was like, I will put clothes on you, do not. Yeah, it was definitely, I think it made it a little bit harder, because it was like, oh, I have to stay, like, true to, like, the characters themselves. Like, I didn't want to go too far, but I also didn't want to just do the clothes that they were wearing. So it was really a nice, like, happy medium of getting to have some creative decision while also having something to go off of.
That's so awesome. I loved the costumes. They were so gorgeous.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, my next question is for Noah.
Oh.
So Venus has a lot of like what seems like really specific moments of connection with the audience. Like, it really felt like you were like reaching out and talking to us. What was the process of like finding that in rehearsal, and then how did it change once there was actually people there?
I've been working with Doug MacArthur during this process for my portfolio, and I was talking to him one day, and he said, think about who you're talking to, and that changed things for me a lot. It was right after we'd kind of gotten back into the space from doing it in 420 and moving, or 425, sorry, and moving to 420. It was just really thinking about who was I speaking to as Venus. And I struggled with that a lot because it is so open-ended. It is just kind of telling a story. And I really took the idea of these statues being a vessel for a story very close to my heart. So that was kind of how I maneuvered who I was talking to and how to connect with people. And then once an audience came into the space, once like tech people were here to watch, our lovely crew had a moment to watch, I was really scared I was going to make eye contact with someone. Especially during lines where I wasn't Venus, I was this perpetrator, this third character. I was really scared I was going to look someone in the eye. So once we got tech and costumes and every element we could besides a full house, it was really just finding those spots on the wall and finding those places where I could imagine who I was talking to or what I was talking to without staring someone in the eye and making them feel hit too hard.
Yeah, for sure. My next question is for Cadence. How did the sweater like inform your work as a character, and how was it like to work without it and then with it?
The sweater was such a big help for me to find intention, because when we were first blocking it, it was kind of, I was wearing it at first, and so I was playing it with like the sleeves and like maybe the strings. But then I feel like it was such like a shift once I got that sweater, and I was able to like, almost like as a character, I was able to like manipulate it, and like I would hold on to it, or I was able to, like the pole scene, and just really, like it really made my intentions like for me clear, and it really helped me envision my character more because it was such a big part of her story. So, yeah. And shout out to Malia for freaking
For
painting
real.
that thing. It was a hot pink, like, cat's light.
That dyed brown.
Yeah.
Some spell on it or something.
Yeah, Malia did some crazy work.
Yeah.
It's a relic.
Thank you, Mom.
Awesome. Okay, my next question is for Emily. As theater kids, I think we all know about the statue of Juliet. I would hope so. But it's like really famous that it's like turning yellow from how often it's touched. So I was wondering like how did like the knowledge of the constant touching and how it's viewed in actual real life impacted your character?
Oh, that's really interesting. I kind of saw it as this idea of never being able to escape it almost. Like this statue was so damaged to the extent that they had to fix it. And still people come and they touch the boobs to the point where it turns yellow. It's this idea of never being able to escape these feelings in this place and this idea of yourself. If I could say anything to this character, I just would want her to be free of these feelings and have like a future and better sense of self.
Okay, my next question is for Shelby. Basically, why this, why now? Where did the inspiration for like such a...
You are opening up a can of worms. I began writing this piece in August of this year. It came from a place of like, I don't want to say like anger, but like rebellion, and like I need to say something, even if it's like just in this Google Doc, I need to say something. It really started around the time, this trend on TikTok of like, would you rather be stuck in a forest with like a bear or a man? And I was like getting all these stories and all these inspirations and influences, and slowly became like, oh, it's not just women who face these like sexual assault. It's not just men, it's children, it's older people, and it comes from different areas of like, it happens in so many different degrees that we don't think about. And then, of course, as the process continued, more things happened around the world where I was like, this needs to happen. This, even if like 200 people see this show coming in for the like Forge days, like people need to see it and know how people are influenced by decisions made, like politically, medically around the world. And so, yeah.
Thank you. Okay, my next question is for Ruby. The Veiled Virgin statue is a bust, so you had no legs. What was it like to develop like distinct body language as a full body rather than what it was before?
That's interesting. It's kind of, it's useful to look at like, you know, because the Veiled Virgin is the Virgin Mary, so there's a lot of other art like of her depicting her. So I drew on that a lot in terms of the way she holds herself, the way she poses, and the way she moves. And then there's also just throughout her monologue this sense of being ashamed of her body and trapped in her body. And I think that's something poetic about the statue too, of not having a body, but to feel like I don't want my legs there. I don't want to have especially like a uterus and a vagina, right? Because those are things that are so like inherently shameful about her, but just wanting to like constrict that part of her.
Yeah, super cool. Thanks. Okay, my next question is for Palmer. David has a very like beaten down energy compared to the rest of the characters who seem more like angry. So what was the process for finding that compared to all of everything else that was happening on stage?
You know, finding that it's really interesting. I find whenever I perform in shows, I will kind of consistently be thinking about stuff like that. Like, how am I going to portray this? What am I trying to say with this character? What is the overall message? And, you know, I think with David, kind of this, it's just like, I think out of all the statues, if I'm not mistaken, like he's pretty well the best one intact. You know what I mean? I think about kind of the statue of David at, where is it, the Louvre? I don't know. But, you know, hundreds, thousands of people come to just view this statue like daily, you know, and how tiring would that be to kind of be this figure of perfection and like you can't move that even. It's solid. It's not gonna change at all. But you know, the character of David is he's breakable. He is just like the rest. And I just thought about that a lot. Just kind of how he is, you know, the exact same as the others. He's just been kept in this kind of world of like, oh, nothing bad will happen to you because you're, you know, I guess a male, but it also, you know, you're a highly valued piece of art. And it's just drawing on that a little bit, I guess. I was able to find something I hopefully came across like that.
Came across. Okay, my next question is for Zach. What was the process of finding like the natural emotional build to go from like super, super high intensity anger to just like raw sadness?
That was definitely like a major process for me at least in this, because I really wanted, so Nike as a statue, as a character, she is the goddess of victory. So it really started with this idea of like a goddess or god of war. She's always fighting. So that's where it started, of this like this anger, this fight back, this want to win. And so with that in mind, I kept playing it that way. And there became like this revelation where I realized, oh, she's always winning. That means she's always fighting. So there's this unending cycle constantly that she's in. And that's really where a lot of that emotional, like those deeper, like sadder moments came in, is that as much as, yes, she's winning these battles, she's always in war. She can't escape it. And I don't think she can ever. So I think that's where that really came from for me.
Good answer.
I have a question that's kind of general for everybody. What was it like to use the real history behind the characters, because they are statues and they do exist? I know that we've touched on it a little bit already, but I want to open up that for everyone as well. Yes, Spencer.
So, just like in general, I'm a very like text-based person. So like anytime I like get a script, I'm always like, what was the context? How can I dig into like, what do these things mean? So I was like, I did a bunch of research on the statues, and then I showed up to a production meeting, and Shelby was like, oh, you don't have to like draw on it. Like they can be their own thing. And I was like,
yeah.
So it was all about just like finding that balance of like the human story that each character tells and the connections we can draw from the statues within those stories, right? It's a lot of like repeating motifs of like touch or sound that would influence like the statue and the story of the statue, or that has influenced the story of the statue, that is like continuously influencing these characters.
I know I've been speaking a lot, but I was really hit by the fact that the statue of Venus does not have arms. The statue of Venus has no arms, and obviously we can't just get rid of my arms. So playing a character and thinking about how someone who didn't have the power could search for it. Because my portrayal of this character was angry, was vengeful, was hurt, was a protector. And thinking about how, I don't even know how to use my body to protect myself or anyone else. I have these arms, these legs, this body, and I can't do anything. So the thought of even though I have things that the statue doesn't have, this character still can't do anything about it.
Yeah, I would say for me, Nike as a statue is, I would say, almost the most visibly damaged, is both missing her head as well as her arms. But in those missing pieces creates a new stance Because when I initially looked at the image, it looks like he's lunging because of her wings and how they're positioned. So I think like that the way how it's like visibly damaged, so war and fighting, but also like lunging towards, always going, always attacking.
Super cool. Thank you. My next question is for Spencer. What was it like to be, one, a first-time director, and two, working in what I think is the hardest staging ever in round?
So the staging was one of those things where I like read the text, and then I read the second iteration, I read the third iteration, and I was like,
And the fifth and the sixth.
yeah. And I was like, I think the first person I like talked to about it was Casey, and I was like, this piece feels like theater on the round. Like it kind of has to be. Like I was thinking about it and I was like, I don't know how I would be able to convey the physicality and the, what's the word? Like the connection between the audience and the statues in like a proscenium or like in like thrust or anything. It was like that connection is not there. So I like brought it to the production meeting and I was like, hey guys, like, how do we feel about theater in the round? And then I just saw Shelby like nodding. Got it. But I don't know. The other thing that like my biggest pet peeve as a director is seeing shows like in like pretty like I guess traditional staging where like a character turns around and their back is like to the audience and they're not doing any acting. They're just staring at a wall and it's like, I want to see your face, especially if they're showing emotion. I want to see the expression, right? So this piece was a challenge for me in that I had to kind of like get used to the fact that there is always going to be a back to an audience member at all times. And in doing so, I kind of wanted to make sure that every seat could get a distinct visual of something that they could kind of like take and attach themselves to, which was kind of how I approached theater in the round in the first place, I guess. And then the other thing was just in like the rehearsal process, we had to like either do like cardinal directions or like clock. So I was always like, great, theater or like 3 o'clock audience has got it, or 9 o'clock audience has got it. And it was constantly like me like running around this circle, was scribbling things down in my book and then running around the other way. And then like that in conjunction with being a first-time director, like, I don't know, and I've been saying this to a lot of people that I'm like pretty close friends with, that like before the process, I would not have considered myself like a director, you know? And then after the process, I'm like so proud that like I've been able to make this thing come to life with the help of sort of people around me. I would consider myself a director now, which is super interesting. And it's exciting. So many opportunities. I'm very excited.
We'd consider you a director too,
Good. Very well done.
I think acting is officially my new favorite word. Okay, Casey.
Yes.
You had these gorgeous heartbeats that were very, very specific moments. So what was it like to put those in and make them alive?
Oh, I'm gonna be so real with you. It was really hard because we had a really tight like rehearsal schedule. We, 1 minute we had 2 months, the next minute we had a week. And so as a designer, it was like, oh, I need to get in rehearsals and I need to know where these punching lines are so I know where to put these punching heartbeats. So I sort of sat in a rehearsal early in the process and just kept scribbling of like here, maybe here, maybe here. And then I think the week before reading week, I just sat in on another rehearsal and was like, okay, definitely here. This is what speaker it's coming out of. Okay. And just going through the entire run through of like, this is where this is, just being very precise with it, right?
Yeah, they were awesome.
Thank you.
Okay, my next question is for Andreas. What was it like to call such a Q-heavy show and also such a Q-specific show? And how did that perform in rehearsals? How was it different?
Sorry, Andres.
So it was it's hard. I'll be honest. I don't think Casey and Brooke ever, if they saw the shows, I don't think there was a perfect show in their opinion.
It was kind of close.
Because it's very specific, and shout out to Tavia and Mel isn't here, but the board ops came in huge, like massive. Like a few times I fucked up, like that. And, okay. Sorry guys, I took the one, and I messed up, and they covered for me, and they told me no, it's this, and I was like, oh yeah, yeah.
Shout out board ops.
Woo!
Okay, Brooke, I am very curious. Each character seemed to have their own specific color.
Yeah.
I'm very curious what informed that for you.
Okay, it was a lot. I knew I wanted to play with purple with Venus because that was something that's directly related in the script. And I knew that there was like the yellow for Juliet because she talks about like her brass hue turning yellow. And so I took those and I was like, no matter what, these are the colors of these two characters. And then I was like, great. There's other characters in the show that also need colors. Awesome. So I talked with the other designers a lot, and I was like, hey guys, colors? I can't think of anything. And like for the longest time, David was green, and I was like, I love this, but also I've got green garden, and I was like, I don't want to make that correlation. And then I was like, I want it to be more of a traditionally masculine color without it being like just a blue, because blue equals sad. That's not what I was really going for. So I chose an aqua for David because I was just like, it's got a bit of a punch to it without you really truly noticing it. Nike was originally red, just with the pure passion with Nike's scene. I wanted it to be a strong color, but with my correlations later on with like the perpetrators and I guess like the villains within each scene being red, I didn't want to put Nike under the same color because that's not what Nike's about at all. So I stuck with a really nice orange because orange also in like color theory and like what it means, orange is commonly used for like dangers and and as cautions, and so I really wanted to incorporate that. The little dancer was pink, and that was purely based off of the sculpture. I'm gonna be honest. The sculpture is pink, and I was just like, she's 14. Pink? And it worked. And then the Veiled Virgin, as she demonstrates like purity and just being a holy character, I wanted it just a pure white. And like the lights I used have a natural white, which has got a little bit of a warm tone to it. So I had to like go in and like physically like turn all of the colors to zero and be like, this is the white I want. But yeah.
Awesome. Okay, Jocelyn, what was it about being in the round but still creating like a set that had a very specific vibe and tone to it, but making it able so that everybody could see it?
Yeah, definitely as a first set, this was a challenge. And when Spencer came into the production meeting that one day and was like, guys, let's do in the round, I wanted to lunge at you. But after all the pieces came together, it was, and I actually heard Spencer out, the show was meant for in the round. And then it kind of got me excited because there was so many kind of creative possibilities for this show about the direction I could take. I did like the idea of like emptiness and almost like an abyss, and then I was like maybe a dark abandoned museum, maybe nothing, like maybe just blank, let them do the work. But yeah, after reading the script, I was like, the amount of times flowers, gardens is mentioned, I was like, this needs to be an aspect. So I think I kind of combined all of them to kind of use my space that I had and using all like the black walls as my abyss and just having the little garden elements. And yeah, I think it all came together nicely.
And you did fantastic.
Yes.
Very well.
Okay, I have a final question for everybody. We do this as every one of our talkbacks. I want to go down the line and everybody just wants to share their favorite part of the process. That would be awesome. You go first, Ruby.
Pressure. All right. So many parts of this were so wonderful. I think if I have to pick one thing to say, this is my first show at the university, and just sort of like getting to learn from like people in upper years in all respects of just like feeling very welcomed, getting to see people be really good at what they do is really awesome and made me feel very welcomed. So that was a wonderful, wonderful experience.
Learned a lot from you too.
Yeah. For me, I think working on like a new script, a new piece, and being able to like make it our own and find our own characters and our own like visions of what it is without any like predetermined like ideas coming in. So that was really cool and to see everyone find their own characters too.
Yeah, for me, I think this is such a different show that compared to anything else I've worked on, both just how emotionally intense it is. So I think just being able to explore different tactics of how to convey that, but never hurt somebody, because you never know what someone could be going through. So I think just that balance was so important.
I mean, I could go on and on about every single part of the progress. Oh my gosh, process. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I've been doing a lot of runs. But I think one of my favorite parts that really stuck with me is us as a cast and everybody in the rehearsal space. We had to find levity. We had to make jokes and create bits out of things because there's no moment to breathe in this piece. And there doesn't need to be. But when you're putting yourself in this position all the time, we needed to find ways to laugh once in a while, to giggle, to have a good time, and just separate ourselves from the weight. So after a few times, we kind of started just turning the name Marble Gardens into just different ways of just Marble Garfield, and then slowly but surely turning it into noises and
Marble Gerbil.
And it was a way to kind of go into it with positivity, even though it's such a heavy piece. Standing outside the door and going, ready to marble these gardens, was a moment where we could just take a deep breath and leave ourselves outside of the door.
Set ourselves up for the sequel, Marble Gardens 2, Two Marble, Two Gardens.
I'm
working on it right now.
Everybody plays a different part.
I think this was my second university show, and it was a little bit more traditional, like from my last production, but still not traditional in the sense that I was kind of used to. And kind of coming on and Spencer and Dallas being so kind as to cast me after I was late for my audition. And I always kind of felt like I had to prove to them that I was meant to be here and I wanted to be here and I was ready to work on this. And then to also kind of look around and see that everybody else was that way too and they were on time. So, it's something really special to see so many things come into play, set, lighting, costumes, acting, directing, all of it just meld into this thing that we've created now and that we get to live with for the rest of our lives. And I thank you, Spencer, for allowing me to be a part of this.
Yeah, thank you for being a part of it.
Yes, thank you.
Theater is such a collaborative process. Sometimes we were, as actors, disconnected from the creative process, and the creative process is disconnected from us, and we have to come together and make a show and make it work. And one of the things I really appreciated about this process was some people were in the roles for the first time. Some people had done this before. But there was this energy in the room of forgiveness and this ability to learn and just go through the process. I just enjoyed this process as it was, as what came out, and loved getting to see people grow confident in their roles.
Yeah, in a very similar vein. Yeah, my favorite part of the process was the process. Like, you go through university and you take like studio classes and you take like lecture-based classes and you learn the theory and you learn so much theory, and I love theory. But just like sitting down for the first rehearsal as like a brand new director, you just sit there and you think, how? Like, what am I gonna do? Like, I can mine the text, I can like do all this stuff, but like, no one teaches you how to do like a rehearsal schedule, like that kind of stuff. So like learning structure was probably my favorite part, and then being able to
apply that theory that you learn with structure allows you to see like art unfold before your eyes, and it is magical. And that was my favorite part.
So passionate, and I love it so much.
Something that I find is a commonality among creative minds, and especially among like tech people, specifically like sound and lights people, is you really like to just sit in the dark in a corner and do the thing that you love to do. So there was a moment after load in where I had all of my speakers set up and the subwoofers, and it was just me and Brooke in the space. Brooke was up in the booth with all of the lights off, just setting things up and playing with things. And I finally got the chance to just play. So I just sat there with the subwoofers almost all the way up and just laid on the floor and was like, this is amazing. And just being able to play with things. As soon as I was told, like, yeah, you can put the subwoofers in the space, it was like a little kid. You normally go to your one playground, and then your parents are like, let's go to the playground, and you get taken to a bigger, cooler playground. It's like, whoa, yes! So I really enjoyed just sitting in the dark with Brooke playing with the lights and just playing with sound. It was amazing.
Yeah, we created a killer sensory room.
We did.
It was amazing. There's a lot. But like, this is my first lighting design, and I had over 100 cues. Once again, sorry, Andres. Combined with the 86 sound cues. 85 sound cues. Yep. That's a lot for a 40-minute show. So I would say my favorite part was our last rehearsal, where we had gotten everything right, and I was going from going to like 3 or 4 pages of just notes to fix to like 3 notes total, and it was just the absolute joy that I felt. That, and also Andreas' face when I told him I had 100 cues. That was also a real good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, being a first semester university person with not a lot of theater experience, I just really appreciated how when we all came together, all of us, I just felt like a click. And then I was like, hey, let's do this, we got this. And yeah, just learning from everybody, getting everyone's experience, and yeah, it was great.
Let me adjust the microphone.
So my mission statement, you could say, for being a playwright is I write the script, I give it the director, and I let them have fun with it. Because that's the beauty of theater, in my opinion, is you get to create something totally different, and it's different every single night. So my favorite part was coming into rehearsals and seeing like the little things that you guys did, like the little choices, the decisions, the movements, because I didn't give you a lot of stage directions to go with. So my favorite thing was coming in and seeing how the show was growing. That sounds cheesy, but that was my favorite.
So I really liked the process of the show and from the beginning and seeing it develop, but as a stage manager, there is a correct answer to this question, and it's calling the show and Tech Week. It's like dessert for doing blocking and doing schedules, and
it's like a reward.
Yeah, it's great, and I would not change any of the cues. And my favorite scene to cue was Zach's scene to Nike because of the seconds and the way you like cut off at the end. Yeah, no, it's great.
I'm glad you had fun. Yeah. I think my favorite part was seeing it all come together. As many people in theater know, it can be very nerve-wracking, very stressful leading up to it, and you're like, how am I gonna pull this off? Oh my god! And then you see it, and you're like, this was so great. So I think seeing it all come together, seeing how making sure that everyone was like comfortable, and the fact that everyone like felt okay in their costumes was like my favorite part. I was like, okay, yeah, this is good. It was so nice to see it all come together and it all work out. And working with all the actors was so lovely, and all the cast and crew. You guys were all amazing. Oh, you're amazing.
There's a lot of love in this group.
Yeah.
In this production group, cast, crew. everything. It's been a really love-filled experience.
Thank you all for your really sweet answers.
Thank you.
And thanks for coming.
Thank you, Sarah. And keep your eyes out for Toonie submission stuff.